The first part of the Underground opened on the 10th of January 1863, with the Metropolitan Railway Company opening 7 stations between Paddington and Farringdon. They soon expanded, heading west and south down to Hammersmith and then Kensington, and then the Farringdon terminus was extended east to Moorgate in the city. In 1868, the Metropolitan Railway then extended north for the first time with the line from Baker Street to Swiss Cottage. But at the same time, a competing railway company, the Metropolitan District Company, built their first line between South Kensington and Westminster. The district then went west down to West Brompton and east to Blackfriars until Earls Court Station opened in 1871 and the district linked up with the Metropolitan at Hyde Street, Kensington. Hammersmith Station on the District Line followed, and what would become the Circle Line later to the east had now made its way to Aldgate and Mansion House. The Underground then came to Richmond in 1877, with both the Metropolitan and District Railway Companies running services over a new line to this existing station. In 1878, the District Line extended to Ealing Broadway, whilst the Metropolitan was also expanding and by 1880 had now reached Harrow, the same year that the District Line had extended south down to Putney. In 1883, the Circle was becoming closer to completion, with the extension of the Metropolitan round to Tower Hill, with the District now going west down to Hounslow. The next year, 1884, brought the completion of what would become the Circle Line, with the 2 separate companies finally meeting at Mansion House. The District Railway, though, continued building out eastwards to Whitechapel, whilst the Metropolitan Railway built the East London Line down to New Cross. The Metropolitan Line extended next, going to Pinner, Rickmansworth, before finally reaching Chesham in 1889, the same year that the District Line made it down to Wimbledon. The following year, in 1890, then brought London's first deep-level tube railway. Everything else had been built at cut-and-cover level until now, but the City and South London Railway, which would later become the Northern Line, was built between Stockwell and King William Street. 2 years later, in 1892, the Metropolitan Line had made it to Amersham. In fact, beyond as well, to Aylesbury and even further, but that's not shown on this diagram. Back in the central area of London, the Central Line was first constructed in 1900, known as the Central London Railway, which went between Shepherd's Bush in the west to Bank in the east. At the same time, King William Street closed, having only been open for 10 years, and the line was extended north as far as Moorgate. By 1903, the Northern Line had extended up to Angel and down to Clapham, whilst the district had been busy too, now reaching Upminster in the east and South Harrow in the west of London. 1904 brought about the construction of the Northern City Line between Finsbury Park and Moorgate, whilst the Metropolitan Line built a brand new line out west to Uxbridge with just one intermediate station after Harrow-on-the-Hill at Ruislip. South Acton appeared on the map of railways in 1905 when District Line trains started to run there, and a year later brought another brand new tube railway, what would become the Bakerloo Line, opening between Baker Street and Lambeth. Also in 1906 was another major underground railway, what would become the Piccadilly Line, starting at Finsbury Park. This new tube line tunnelled its way under central London and went all the way to Hammersmith. The Bakerloo Line had now reached Elephant and Castle too. After Aldwych opened in 1907, what became the Northern Line expanded vastly, by 1909 now reaching Highgate and Golders Green on 2 separate branches, as well as coming through the West End of London down to Charing Cross. The Bakerloo had now also reached Edgware Road. The district finally made its connection with the Metropolitan at Rayners Lane in 1910 and also ran services to Uxbridge. Back on the Met, Shoreditch Station opened up on the East London Line in 1913. The Bakerloo reached Willesden Junction in 1915 and Harrow and beyond to Watford by 1917. And then the Central Line started to expand, going west out to Ealing Broadway in 1920 and Liverpool Street in the east. The Northern Line continued to expand too, reaching Edgware in 1924. A year later, the Met reached Watford, and a year after that, the Northern Line went further south to Morden. There were plans for the line to go further, but it never happened. The Northern Line did now link up at Kennington to give us the 2 branches that we know today. In 1932, the Metropolitan branch to Stanmore opened. This would later become the Bakerloo Line and is now today part of the Jubilee. In the same year, the Piccadilly Line was extended north from Finsbury Park up to Arnos Grove and then up to Cockfosters by 1933. In 1941, the Northern Line was extended north up to High Barnet and Mill Hill East. During the Second World War in the 1940s, many more extensions that had been planned never happened, but new works on the Central Line did start in 1946, with the Loop and Central Line making its way up to Epping and then Ongar by 1949. The Western end was extended at the same time, getting to West Ruislip in the same year. In 1959, the shuttle service to the District Line to Southampton was withdrawn. Then in 1968, the first part of the Victoria Line opened, and by 1971 was fully open all the way down to Brixton. The next extension to the network was on the Piccadilly, with Hatton Cross opening in 1975 and to Heathrow itself in 1977. 2 years later, and the Tube got a whole new line, the Jubilee, running through from Charing Cross up to Stanmore. The loop of track at Heathrow Terminal 4 was opened next in 1986. In 1994, the Waterloo and City Line appeared on the Tube map, although it had been opened in 1899 but run by British Rail and didn't transfer to London Underground until this year. Later that same year, there were some closures. On the same day that the Aldwych branch closed on the Piccadilly, the Epping to Ongar branch on the Central Line also closed. And that brings us right up to date, with the Jubilee Line being extended to Stratford in 1999 and Shoreditch closing on the East London Line in 2006. Finally, in 2007, the rest of the East London Line closed to be converted to the London Overground network, and then in 2008, the last new branch on the Underground to be opened was the extension down to Terminal 5 at Heathrow Airport. And that is how the Tube map has got to look how it is today.